Hello and welcome to lesson number 5 of our free online coding lessons with me, Kofi Supernaturals, brought to you by the Superjcybs Business and Services. Don't forget that you can always reach us for your business consultancy services. You can reach us if you want to do digital marketing. You can reach us if you need a website. You can reach us if you want to learn graphic designs, and especially if you want to learn coding. So, welcome once again to lesson number 5, as I'm so much glad to receive you and to take you through this lesson. This is going to be a very fun lesson, and I can promise you that. And so, don't forget that we said that in this free coding lesson, we have the objective of building a free business website so that it can start from somewhere. Give me a thumbs up so that the video can reach a lot of people, and then leave a comment, a very nice comment in the comment section, so that I'll see how you are enjoying the lessons. God bless you. See you on the desktop. Hello and welcome to my desktop. I believe you are poised for action. So in lesson number 4, you realize that I started doing something like this, which took us through everything that we need to be learning in that particular lesson, and it was very fun and very good, because I realized that it was very easy for me to keep track of where I am going. And so in lesson number 5, I did the same thing also. And here we are. So I'm going to close the lesson number 4. And here we are on lesson number 5. Now, you'd realize that to begin with, we are going to have a recap of what we did in lesson number 4. So at lesson number 4, we looked at the DOM, some naming conventions, metadata, and HTML components. So let me inform you that this lesson is fully on HTML components. But this time around, we are going to look at the part of the component which is used for so many things. So all the tags that I told you to keep note of, that is what we are going to be looking at in this lesson, because we will be learning about div, span, links, text, images, forms, and tables. And that is whatever thing that you have been seeing on the websites out there. So without wasting time, let's jump straight into action by looking at a recap of lesson number 4. So in lesson number 4, I made mention that the DOM, which is the first thing that is written over here, is the structure like of the website that we have created, which I made mention that it just tells you the hierarchy of the website that you have created, and so making it easier for you to spot when there are issues so that you can be able to fix them appropriately, rightly, and quickly. So that is what I made mention of about the DOM. So you realize that I also made mention that the whole website is called the document, and so the document has a root folder, which is the root tag or the root element, which is the HTML over here. That is why when we were writing our first line of code, I told you that the first tag that we are going to be writing is HTML, because that is the root tag. And so inside of it, we have the head element, and then we have the body element, which this one shows on the top and doesn't show in the main body. And then all of these ones, the body part shows in the main section or the work area of your browser. And then after that, we also looked at metadata, where I spoke to you in-depthly about these parts of the website that is not shown inside of our body, but it also helps in its own part when we are working on our website. I told you one about the author, and then I told you about refresh rates and all those things. And so please, if you have forgotten any of them, feel free to visit lesson number 4, rewatch it, and then take your time. Play it slowly so that you can be able to comprehend everything that is there. Sure, because I need you to get it so that both of us will join hands and create that fully functional business website. Apart from that, we also looked at the naming conventions, which I told you that once we get our hands dirty with coding, we will be needing to give names to our classes or to our elements. And in that instance, we'll be looking at naming conventions. I told you that in all our conventions, I'll be using the BIM strategy, the BIM naming strategy. I told you that. And then I showed you how it looked like in the previous lesson. So feel free to visit lesson number 4. Oh, okay. And then I also made mention that when you are giving class names or when you are naming your elements, make sure that you are not using spaces, and then you should have consistent capitalization. And I said in the capitalization, we might be using camel casing. Instead of using spaces, rather use dash. So, I hope you have gotten it. Let's get deep into it. So, as another recap, we made mention of HTML tags, attributes, and elements. I told you that the whole HTML document is created with HTML component, which is the element. And this element is made up of, number 1, tags. So I told you that we have tags, and then I even told you that a tag has an angle bracket like this, and then the name of the tag, and then a closing angle bracket. So this whole of it is called the opening or the start tag. Let me call it the start tag rather. I think that one is much more nice because I can say end tag also. So when it comes to the end tag, the only difference is that we are writing just a / before the name of the tag. And so this makes this an end tag, and then this a start tag. So don't forget this. If you have forgotten it, please go back to lesson number 4 so that you can be able to comprehend it again. In fact, assimilate it well. Amazing. So this is the start tag. There's no slash. And then this is the end tag and there's a slash. So inside of the element, we have the tags, which is the start tag and the ending tag. And then we may have attributes also, which I made mention that attributes are written inside of the start tags. So if I have an attribute for body like this, before bringing the closing start angle bracket, I'm going to put the attribute over here. So the attribute name will be here, followed by an equal sign, and then the value of the attribute, which is written inside of double quote. Don't forget it. This is the syntax. If you don't do it this way, you get an error. And then now I can bring the closing angle bracket of my start tag. Then I will have my element content inside. That is after I've closed the start tag. I'm going to bring my element content, and then after the element content, I will now bring my closing, let me say, end tag. And that is all for the element. So we made mention of it, and then we looked at some of it in the previous lesson. Feel free to refer back. Good. Finally, what I want to say is that I also talked about nested element, where we put one kind of element inside of another, which is very much allowed for some. Yeah, sure. Once we delve into it, you get everything about it. And then I also made mention of empty elements, or better still, empty tags. So I said that there are 2 of them, like HR, which is horizontal lining, and then BR, which is line break. And with these ones, they just don't require you to write an end tag. Once you just write this opening, they are okay and you are good to go. You can use it. So that is how these two are used. Because they don't have any content, element content, they are called empty elements. Okay, I believe it was very easy taking you through the recap. So let's dive into lesson number 5. See you. Hello and welcome to lesson number 5. Over here, I've already told you that it is going to be coding. Yes, so we are starting it and then we are ending it all in coding. Don't forget that in lesson number 4, I told you to keep note of some important tags because that is exactly what we are going to be using in this lesson. So in a previous lesson, we created this folder here. In our previous lesson. So if you don't have yours, make sure you watch the previous video and then get that. And please give us a like, because YouTube, when they know that people are giving it like, then they can show our video to more people. Then more people can benefit from this free resource. Thank you. Now, I'm going to open this, and then don't forget that in the previous lesson we created this index.html file over here. And now I added this file over here, the vid.mp4 here, so that I will just be using it to show you something in this lesson. But nonetheless, don't worry, you can use any video that you have. Once we get there, you will understand. I'm going to open this so that we see what we did. And this is what we did in our previous lesson. So if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about now, then it means you have to go back and watch lesson number 4 before you come to lesson number 5. Thank you. And so in lesson number 5, another thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to open a line of code. So I'm going to open either VS Code and Sublime Text. I want to use both of them just to show you something. So I can just drop. Once my folder is here, I can just drop the file. If I double click on this file, it is going to open with the browser. So I'm not going to double click. So I'm going to just drag it into Sublime Text. And here we are. And here our code is opened. So the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to change the line of code from over here so that you can be able to see that it is indeed working, and we are going to be able to change this line of code to our next preference. I'm going to change the revision of lesson 3 to lesson 4, and then I'm going to come back here and then remove this line of code from here because I don't need it. I'm going to save it over here and then come here and refresh the page. Don't forget, for those of you who were able to install VS Code, I told you something with VS Code. That is an extension which is called Live Server, which allows you to automatically save your work and show it on the browser after you have done some editing. So go ahead and feel free to use that, and it's very easy. In the next lines, I'm going to use VS Code. Open our codes. I'm going to open our codes, and then I'm going to drag it also. In fact, for this one, I want to drag the whole folder. So I'm going to drag the whole folder into VS Code like this. And here I am. So I'm going to use Live Server to open this. I'm just doing it. I didn't do it behind the scene. I want you to see it so that it will just serve as a revision for you. Now that my code is opened over here, the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to come to the button over here, and then I'll go to Go Live. Once I click on Go Live, it should open my work for me in the browser. Because this one is already here, it is going to open another tab so that, and I think it is still loading because I have seen this one here. Here we are. So it is now loading over here. So I'm going to close the old one. And for us to know that this is our code from VS Code which is working, I'm going to effect some changes onto our code so that we see it over here. Like over here, I'm just gonna write using VS Code, and then let's see if it is shown over here. and here we are, it is showing. So it means that what the browser is showing here is coming from this our code. Now in the previous lesson we added metadata, and those of you who don't know anything about this, just visit the previous lesson so that you can be able to grab it. In this lesson you will be looking at comments, and for comments, like I said in the previous lesson, it is just written this way. So the only thing that you have to do is to bring an open bracket, and then we add an exclamation mark, 2 dashes, and then whatever comments that we want to give, we input it here. Then the next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to add another double dash or 2 dash, and then bring a closing angle bracket. Once I do this, I'm able to create a comment. So if you check on this line number 12, you realize that that is what I did. I opened my bracket here, and then an exclamation mark, and then I had the comment itself. And after the comment, the next thing that I did was to bring double dash again and close my angle bracket. So that is how you create comments in HTML. Feel free, go ahead and try it. And don't also forget that your comments don't show on your browser, they don't show on your body. So let's see what I'm going to do here. Instead of the using VS Code, I'm just going to put a comment in between it, and then let's see how it goes. So over here I'm gonna say this is a comment, and then double dash close. So over here you realize that there's a comment in between, but the comment is not showing, and then there's VS Code. But when you come inside of our browser, you are not seeing anything happening. Now if you don't really understand how this thing also became, then I think you should go and watch, I think, the second lesson, because that is when I spoke about white spaces. So why is it that there are a whole lot of spaces over here and VS Code is only showing one space? That is about the white spacing syntax or protocol. So please make sure that you go and check out all of these things so that you grab the explanation to all of this. Let's go to the next agenda, which is divs and spans. So over here we have the div, and then what you should get to understand is that the div stands for division. So div here only stands for division, and so it is used when you don't want to mix your content, like you don't want to mix them up, so you want to put them in containers, like you want to divide them. Don't also forget that in the previous lesson where I spoke about block elements, a div is a block element, so it takes up the entire width of your page. In an HTML element we can have lot and lot of divs, that there's no limit. That is what I want you to know. And so it is used as a container for other HTML tags. Don't forget about it. We can also use it when we get to CSS, just to style a particular group, that is an entire group, instead of applying the styles individually. We will also get to that when we get to CSS. And by default, a line break is always placed before and after a div. Make sure you play it slower if it was so quick for you. And so let's look at some of the attributes of a div. I showed you all of these things before, so that once we get here and I begin to talk about them, you will not have any issues with them. So let's talk about the attribute of a div. Now, an attribute is what some of the properties that a particular element can have. So a div can have an ID, a div can have a title, a div can have a style, and a div can have hidden. Now the hidden just says that don't show whatever thing is in this div, or don't show this div. So let's dash onto the code editor so that I will be able to show you what this one actually means in real fact. To begin with, don't forget that it is also an element, so in writing it we have to declare a start tag and an end tag. And that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. I don't need this line of code, so I'm just going to remove it from here. We have one comment here which is enough to show. I'm just starting a tag, and then with VS Code, in fact with most of the code editors, once you put a start tag, it automatically completes with an end tag for you. And over here I'm going to put something in this tag. I can do a nested. I can nest a p tag inside of this div. Getting this? Okay, so I will say this is a p tag or a paragraph inside of a div, and that is VS Code and Live Server for you. It is automatically refreshing our browser for us. And then with the attributes, if I just write hidden over here, it is already gone. So that is what we are talking about, attribute. And don't forget that I wrote it inside of the start tag. If I should just remove this thing and then say that I want to put it at another place, let me say I delete it over here and put it here, it becomes part of our content. So you can see that it is showing over here. Now let's put it inside of the end tag and see. So I'll cut it, come here and then put it inside of the end tag, and you still realize that this our paragraph or this our content is still showing, because that is not how to do it. Nevertheless, let me just cut it and then put it back inside the start tag, and realize that this thing goes away. So it tells it that it should be hidden, and that is exactly what we mean by the hidden attribute of the div tag. And then aside that, like I said, we can have now with a hidden attribute, it just stands alone. It just stands alone. As time goes on, we'll be looking at most of these things which stands alone. You don't really have to declare any value. Just the name alone does the work. So one of them is the hidden. Thank you. Now, like I said, we can duplicate this div. I told you we can do numerous. In fact, there's no limit to the number of divs that we can use in our work. So I'm just going to remove this hidden so that it shows. I'll remove another hidden. Let me remove most of the hidden so that we can have all of them showing, just to show you that we can put multiple divs inside of our work. So this is all that you can know or you can learn about divs. Now don't forget that all of the divs are going on their separate lines, because it is a block element. It is all pushing it onto the separate line. So we go into the next part of it, which is the span. The span is also a small portion, and this one doesn't cover the entire width. It doesn't cover the entire width. The span doesn't cover the entire width. Like we say, it is an inline div. So it is also for separations, or it is also for divisions. Good. So the span is an inline division. That is an inline div. It is purposely for styling reasons. So let's say that I want this span over here, this span here, I want it to be black, and I want this S to be yellow, and I want this to be green, and this one to be red. I can do all of this with a span. Once we get into CSS and more of it, you are going to understand these things simply. And don't forget, I'm just going to walk you through. The next thing that I want you to look at when we talk about spans is this. So span is used to define inline section in our HTML document. So just to break your work into sections, section 1, section 2. So section 1 is here, section 2 is here, section 3 is here. With this we use a div. But if you want to say that this is section 1 and then section 1 ends here, and you want to continue with section 2 over here, and then after section 2 here ends here, you add section 3 here, this one we use a span. So if it is going to be horizontal like that, we are going to use a div for that, because a div is a block in columns like this. Then we are going to be using spans. Don't forget. So once we get into our coding, I will try something like this for you. Or better still, I can just, since we have the code over here, I will just copy this code into my code editor. Then we will just look at what is going to happen. So I'm gonna type this over here. I'm just gonna use this part for that. So there's nothing, there's no attribute in here, and then I'm gonna say welcome to, and then I introduce a span, and then the span has an attribute, like I used to show you something in our previous lesson. So I'm gonna say this one should show red, and then I will just continue over here and say free coding lessons. I want you to see what I'm doing, and then I close the span and continue over here with Kofi. Okay, I'll just close the div over here because the span has already been closed. Don't forget that if you start a tag and you don't end it, meanwhile that tag is not an empty tag, you are going to have an error. So whenever you open a tag and the tag is not an empty tag, make sure you close it. If not, you have an error. Your code will not work. So let's see the results of this our work. So over here you see welcome to, which is not inside of the span. Now we have the span here which has an attribute of color red, so it will color everything that is inside of the span. So this is the start tag of the span, the end tag of the span, and realize that everything which is inside of the span, the element content of the span, is showing red over here, and then everything that is outside of it is showing black. Now for you to understand this very well, look at this, or for you to be able to confirm yourself, let me just do this. I'll put a space over here, and then I'll just write C over here, and then let's see. You realize that the C has also been marked red. So that is what I'm talking about. Everything which is inside of the span is affected, but those around it is not. Meanwhile, if I put this attribute on the div itself, you realize that all of it is affected because everything is inside of the div and it is blocked, so it will take everything. Sure, so that is how this whole thing works. That is all that you need to know about divs and spans. I think I also want to talk about the attribute of span. So it is just like that of the div. So you can have an ID, you can have a class, a title, a style, and a hidden. We just use the style and you saw it. And when we were talking about div, I used the hidden for you to see. So finally, let's move on to this one, which talks about the difference between the div and the span, because you really need it. The div is a block level, which means it takes the full width of your page, whilst the span doesn't. For the span, it only takes the little portion that is necessary, and then that is exactly what this one is saying over here. So the block level and the div the inline level are just explained like this. And so with the div also, it applies styling to other HTML tags present inside it. Sure, just like we saw in the code that we wrote, we realized that when I applied the attribute to the div, it affected the span here. Even if I should make this the welcome over here, if I should make it a p tag, or better still, let me say I'm putting the span and all of the other content inside of a p tag, you realize that this p is nested in the div and the span is nested in the p. And if I should save this, better still, if I should open for us to see the output, realize that even the p and the span are all affected with the styling of the div. So that is what happens when you are using the divs. It applies styling to all other tags inside it, but for the span, it does not apply styling to other HTML tags present inside it. So please take note of this, and let us end the lecture on divs and spans here. So we are ending divs and spans over here, and that one is boom, sorted out. headings and paragraphs. Oh, I think I've already spoken to you about paragraphs. Yes, you already know about paragraphs, so it is not a big deal. So let's move into paragraphs. In the second lesson, I told you something that over here, even though, let me just remove some of this so that we can have just two of them. So if you check here, I have, okay, this one is hidden, that is why it's not showing. So let me just remove the hidden, and now we should have it showing. This SD is not needed. Sorry, it's not needed. So we have two divs with the same content. What I'm going to do here is that I can also write this same content but without a p tag, and it is going to show. Yet it will be very difficult for me to track it. It will be very difficult for me to track it and to apply specific stylings to them, to it. Even though if I apply a styling to this div, it is going to affect this line also. But I can just pick this p tag over here and then style it differently. Even though I am saying that the div should show it. Let me just show you something. So over here, I'm just going to copy this style and then assign it to this, so that this one will all show red. But I can come here and then say that I want this one, the p tag, to also have its separate styling. And you realize that the p tag has been turned blue, because I've given it a new style. It has been turned blue over here. Meanwhile, the old one is still using red. So if I want to do specific things on that particular test, it is going to be impossible, because once I put any styling on the parent element, it is going to affect the one without any element. That is what happens. But if I really want to work on that particular one alone, then I would have to give it a particular paragraph. Or better still, since it is a test, I would have to use P, so that I can be able to assign specific attribute to it also. Now back to our presentation. Better still, just consider it like this. In HTML, tests are written within the p tag. Just take it like that, because you get to other languages, like when I'm doing mobile app development and I'm using maybe React Native to develop the app. In this instance, if I want to write a test, inside of my work, I would have to use a tag like this. Yes, I would have to use a tag like this. But in HTML, you always have to use a p tag. Now, with the mobile app development using the React Native, if I don't write this, my test will never show. So that is the syntax that is used to work. So the p tags defines the paragraphs. And so you should also know that because it is a block level element, there's a blank line that is inserted in the browser window automatically after the end tag. So it is block element. P is a block element. So with that, there's always a blank line after it. Let's check it. I just don't want to be talking, because I know that in your various schools you do all the theories. So in this tutorials, I don't want to be doing theories. Now you realize that in this p tag, there's a p tag over here which is in blue, and here we are with it. We can see it over here, and then just under it there's one full empty line over here. Just here, check here. Sorry, not that, but over here it looks like a full empty line. You see, it's full empty, and that is exactly what we are talking about in where we are saying that there's a blank line inserted in the browser window automatically after the end tag. And another thing is that with HTML, you cannot change the output by adding extra spaces. I've already shown you that in lesson number 2 when we spoke about white spaces. So no matter the spaces that I put over here, let's go back to our code. I just want everything to be practical so that you can see it. Okay, let me just put A here, and then I'll put B here. So we have A and then we have B. In between the A, I have a whole lot of text over here, but because it is a comment, it is not showing on my work. So no matter how many space I bring over here, it doesn't affect my work. That is HTML. So the spaces don't matter. The spaces don't matter. The spaces don't matter. That is the theory of white spaces. So please make sure you visit lesson 2 for that interpretation, if this one is not okay for you. Now, that is to say that the browser will remove every extra space or extra line when the page is displayed. So any number of spaces or any number of new lines, HTML counts it as only one space. So that is what I am talking about. For the practicals, I have already shown you. Some of you, I even saw it in your first assignment that you even used paragraphs. So I'm sure by now you know that once you write P, you are using a paragraph. Let's move on to headings. I remember in lesson 1, lesson 2, I told you that don't think of the head tag as the same as headings. And this is exactly what I was referring to. So we have the head tag in HTML, and then we have the headings tag. Now, the head tag is written as HEAD, head. But with the headings tag, it is written as just H with a number. So H with a number. And when you check over here, it is ranging from H1 to H6. I said in the previous lesson, I remember, that I said the H1 is the biggest of them and H6 is the least of them, the smallest. And so you can just use it for headings. If you want to show a heading, you will just use H1 just to make it bold and bigger. You will see it practically. So like I was saying, don't use heading to make your text big or bold. If you are not using headings, if that particular text is not a heading and you still want to make it bold, then you should use the font weight. When we get there, I'll show you. Or you should just use the bold tag to make it bold. And don't be using the headings inside of your thing, even if it is not a heading. Because screen readers, once it miss it, will treat it as a heading. Meanwhile, for you, in your original plan, it was not supposed to be a heading. So stop using H so and so, that is the heading tags, to show something that you want to make it big or you want to make it bold. Just use the appropriate tags for them. Thank you. Because the search engine use the headings to index the structure of your content. Yes, so that is the reason. So let's just look at how it looks like. I think I have one thing to show you over here, at least for you to just understand how it works. So we can just use, like I said, if you want to make a text bold, you just use the B tag. Don't worry, we have not gotten there. For now, let me just talk about the headings, and let me just show you a practical example of the heading. Let me not worry you that much. one step at a time. Yeah, one step at a time. So let's go to my editor and my resource over here. So I'm going to put a heading over here. Don't forget, we said it is, the tags are H and a number. So I can use H1. Once I end it, it just shows here. I'll say this is the biggest. So I'll say this is the biggest heading. What do you think about what you are seeing? You see? Okay, let me just reduce the size of this. It's now 175. Good. Now 150 is okay. What do you think of this? Now, I can just change this thing to P and it becomes a simple text. But if I change from the P and use heading tags like H1, look at what happens. So this is a clear transformation. In fact, so visible that you can't agitate. There's nothing you can say about it. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to make duplicates of this, and then just a quick one for you to see. I'm going to change this one to H2, change this one to H3, change this one to H4, change this one to H5, and then change this one to H6. There's no H7, please. I remember in lesson 2 I was telling you that please don't go and write H7. Nothing will happen. Now I want to just leave this error so that I will use it to show you something. When you check here, we have H1 here, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. But I did a mistake over here. So over here it is showing H7. Let me just change it to H7 and let's see. Let's see. You see, it is just showing the default paragraph over here. It is just showing it as a default paragraph. It is just showing it as a paragraph test because there's nothing like H7. So I have to just bring it back to H6, and now we realize that it has become the smallest of the heading. Even though it is small, but it is still a heading. So the browser will still look out for it when searching for indexing your page for SEO. This is the heading tag, and you realize how it goes. So you can use the heading tags when you are only working on headings, and please don't be using it for some other things. Okay, now I think we are done with the heading and the paragraphs. Also, we will go to the text formatting quickly. I'm just moving quickly, sure. And with the text formatting, it is very simple. When you refer to those tags that I told you to keep note of, you can just refer to them, and then quickly you understand and have the full tags for text editing. Let me show you this slide. So over here, you realize that to make a text bold, I'll just have to use the B tag. To make a text bold, I need the B tag. To make a text emphasized, we use the EM, which is just like the italic. So the EM is just like the italic. If you look over here, this text is emphasized and this one is italic, and it looks like the writing is even the same. And when you look at the bold here and the strong here, it is also the same. So that is what I'm talking about. We have the superscript. So if you want to write one, let's say you have 5 over here and you want to write A over here, it is called superscript. And let's say if you want to write over here, it is called subscript. So you use the sub and the sup tags to do that. And then we have the big. Like I told you, if you want to make a text big, don't use heading, and it is not a header. Don't use heading, please. Just use the big tag and to make it bigger. If you want to underline a text, use the underline tag, which is U. If you want to strike through, now this is strike through, where it looks like the thing is cancelled. The text is cancelled. This is the strike through, and we use the tags strike. And then we have another one which looks like not formatted at all, and it is, we use the TT, the teletype. I will just want to show you some few things over here. So let's move on to my text editor, then let me take you through. So if I want to make a text bold, we just use the B. So over here I'll say this text, this is written in bold. I'll just say written in bold like this, and then you realize here what is happening right here. So this text is written in bold, but we have already written normal text and realize that it wasn't as bold as this one. So please, I believe for this one you understand. Now what I want to look at is the TT. So let's see. Let me just write let's see. So let's see how this one looks like. Check this out. Check this out. Let me make it bigger so that you can be able to see. So this is written in bold, and you know that one. And then let's see. You see how it is written. The font style is different from what we have been written all this while. The font style is different from what you have been written all this while, and it is just because we use the TT tag. So please take note of that. The next one that I want you to try is the pre tag. So PRE, and then you see it is also looking similar or almost the same as the TT tag. So please don't forget this. I said that there's another tag called a strong tag, which looks the same as the bold. Looks like bold. So when you check the strong and the bold, you don't even see any difference between the two. So that is how this works. And then if I want to make this italic, I only have to clean it and then write I over here, and it becomes italicized. And then if I want to make a text and I want to underline it, I just write U, and you realize that let's see, it's underlined over here. So you can feel free and then do a whole lot of it about it. I know that once I have spoken to you about it first, now you have the go ahead and all the knowledge to go about and try more. So don't worry, try more. Before that, let's look onto our next agenda for lesson number 5. So I have already spoken about the text editing. I'll add it here, and then we will come to links. Now, there are some things we call links. Now, link means that you are moving from one document to another, or you are moving from one page to another. There are 2 types of links, and the first one is called an internal link. The internal link means that you are moving between the same document. Your movement is within the same document. And then for the external links, it is on different documents, or linking through pages on different websites. That is what we call the external links. So you can do an internal link, or you can do an external link. Okay, now what are some of the things that we can do? A link can be provided to a specific part of a same document. So we can move from one part of a document, maybe from the header to the footer, like I showed you with the back to top button. Once I click on it, it moves me from wherever I am on the document to the top. So that is a link to inside of the same document, or a link within the same document. And we can move on to another document. So where we are moving from the home page to maybe the contact us page. That is what we call moving to another document. And then we can have another one which moves to a specific section on another document. So we go to, maybe we are moving from the home page, and then we are going on to another website like tsbfgh.com, but we want the contact part of it. So I will just say /contact. Once we just move in, you understand. And then we can also link to files like audios, images, videos, and all those things. So please, let's just move on to our code, because this is not a talking lecture, it is a practical lecture. So let's first do something over here. Let me just make this one clear and sound this to you, that we can use a text as a link, we can use a button as a link, we can use an image as a link. What this means is that we can put an image here, and then we will say that once somebody clicks on an image, it should take the person to another place. Or we can just put a button there, and we will say that once somebody clicks on the button, it should take the person to another place. That is what I'm talking about. And then we can also use a text. So let me just open the final work so that I will just show you this. This is it. So what I'm talking about is that this button over here has a link. So once I position the cursor on it, you realize, just be checking here, this part. You realize that once I position the cursor on it, there's something written over there. So that is showing you where it will take you to once I click on this. So this is a button, and once we click on it, it is taking us to another place. And so it means that we are using the button as a link to another place. I can click on this text over here, and it's also take me to another portion of the page. And that is also to explain how we can use a text as a link. And then I also click on this image, and then it also takes me to another place, which tells you how we can use an image as a link. I think it is very easy to explain with practice. Let's continue. Don't worry, if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section, because I'm ever ready to listen to you. How do you write our first link? The first thing that you want to know is that links comes with a tag which is A. So once you see the A tag, it means that what you are going to write is going to be a link. And we have an attribute in the A tag called href. So with this href, that is the name of the attribute. And so you always know that the name of the attribute is followed by an equal sign, and then the value of the attribute is written in double quotes from lesson number 4. So I hope you have not forgotten. And so this href is going to, in the value of the href, we are going to write the URL of where we want to go. So when I click on over here inside of the element content, you realize that we have the test. So if somebody clicks on this test, where should the person go? We are going to define that inside of the URL. I have written over here that the href attribute defines the link address. So for example, I have a start a tag here, and it ends over here, and then I have the test over here, which means that the test is outside of the start tag. And then inside of the start tag, I have an attribute href, and the value of the href attribute leads to our main website, that is superjcybs.com. So it means that once somebody clicks on this test, visits Superj website, then the person will be taken to this link. If I don't put anything here, the person will click on it and the link will not go anywhere. Yes, so the most important attribute of an A element is the href attribute. Once you write an A tag, or you want to use a link, then you should tell the browser where it should take the person to when the person clicks on it. I believe it's so easy. You can listen to it as many as you want so that you can get yourself conversant with it. Apart from the href, the A element has other attributes, and the second one is called a download. So once I write a download, I like what we did to the hidden. Once I add download to my link, then once somebody clicks on it, the particular object is downloaded for the person. And then we have media and target. Then yes, I think I want to talk about the target. The target, we have blank, self, top, and all those things. Now when I say target, and then I tell you that I want the target, the value of the target to be underscore blank, it means that it should open my work in a new tab. It will open your link in a new tab. So if you don't define anything, if you don't define any targets, then to open it inside of the main thing. Okay, I believe that was also so easy. So let's go on and try something. I'll just write an A tag over here. Let me just start it, A over here, and then I'll just end it so that it closes. Meanwhile, I'll come and define my href over here. Let me just put something over here. Now you realize what I've done over here. Let me put a P tag over here. This is the last paragraph. Oh, why is this my last paragraph? Why is it not showing here? So this my last paragraph is not showing here because of what I have done over here. Just this small attribute has taken this is my last paragraph to the end, to the button over here. So what I just want to show you is very simple. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to add another attribute here, which I'm going to say ID, and the value is going to be footer. Okay, now I will just come to my link over here. Let me just take this link to the top so that some of you don't complain. I'll bring it to the top over here. Let me just write a test for the link so that you see. I'll just say my link. And so you realize that there's a test here. Now, links are by default underlined. So you realize that this is my link, which is the test that I wrote in between my anchor tags or my A element. So this is it. But if I click on it, it is not going to take me anywhere because I have not defined anything in the href. If you want it to go to another website, you have to put the absolute URL over here. So if I want it to take you to my website, I will just come here and then write the absolute URL. The absolute URL means that I have to write even the HTTP protocol. And so once somebody clicks on this, the person will be taken to my website. You see that the URL has changed from here, and now it is the URL that I wrote over here. I know some people are doubters and they really want to see more. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to delete everything and then write only Superj, just to see that it is changing. Now, nonetheless, if I just place the cursor on it and check the bottom of the page, you realize that the name has now changed to the new one that I wrote. And once I click on it, it will just open in the same thing, but it is saying Superj over here. I don't know if you are seeing it, but I'm sure you have seen it. It is saying Superj instead of Superjcybs. Okay. And then I also told you that if we don't define a target, it will open to replace the old tag that we are using. But if I come here and then I will put another attribute and say target blank, and with this one, once I go back and then I click on my link, it will open it in another tag. So let me just make this one bigger. Let me just close all of these tags so that I can show you what I'm talking about. We only have one tag here. So see what happens when I click on my link. And that is what I am talking to you about. Nonetheless, let's just move on. What I want to do now is that now you are not seeing this. This is the last paragraph. This text, you are not seeing it at the top. So check out for this. Now I'll scroll to the top of the page and realize that when I look down here, I'm not seeing it. But what if I want somebody to click this and it is not going to another website, but it is going to the end of my page? So check what I'm going to do here. I have already put in an ID over here, and IDs, you can only have one ID of the same name. IDs are unique. You cannot put two IDs of the same name. Because I have assigned an ID here, I'm going to reference this ID, or better still, I'm going to call this ID at another location on this document, so that whenever somebody clicks on that particular place, the person will be brought to this ID. Okay, so over here we have, this is the last footer, which is not showing on this code unless we scroll all the way down. But we have the link at the top of this page. So the only thing that I'm going to do is that instead of writing this full absolute link, I'm just going to say ID and then the name of the ID. So if I want to write an ID, I just denote it with a hash. If you are defining the ID, you will just say ID is equal to and then the value of the ID, the name that we are giving to the ID over here. But if I am calling this ID, I will only have to say hash and then the name of the ID. So hash and footer. So I'll save this. It is already saved. I'll refresh the page, and then once I click on this, it takes me all the way down to where we have that particular ID. But I was just wondering why it opened the new tag, and then I realized that I have this target attribute still here, so I'm going to remove it. And now I'm going to close this tag, and then I'll come here and click on the link, and then automatically it takes me down to the last part of the page where I have this is my last paragraph. So this is how links works. I can send a link to another part of the same document, which is called local link, where I can send it to a particular document on the same server, or I can link it to a document called so and so on the same server. So that is what it's all about. I think I've already shown you how it goes, so it is not a big deal. So with that one, the only thing that I have to do is to come, and it is also a link, so we still have to bring the A. And I'll say for the href, I'll say mail to, and then colon, and my email address. Then closing the start tag, and then I'll say send me an email, or send an email over here. So like this, where is my browser? Over here. And when I come here, I'll see send me an email. If I want this part to come down, I guess you know what I can do. The only thing that I have to be adding is to break the line, meaning I want it to go down. I'm breaking the line and it has come down. So once I click on this, it should open my email provider and then tell me that if I want to send. You realize this something. I will just wait for it to open and then I'll show it to you. My Outlook has been opened, so I'm just going to click on it to open it over here. And then you realize that with the message, it says untitled because I've not given it any title or subject. And then when you check inside of the two, when you check in the two elements, the two parts over here, you realize that the email that I wrote over there has been put in the two. It means that once I send anything, whatever thing I send will be sent to this person, this email, which I specified that when I was writing my code. So that is how you can let somebody click on a link to send you an email just from your HTML. Now, the last thing that I would be doing is to use an image rather. So I'll close it. You realize that my Outlook is no more opened. Good. Now we were using just text. Now I want us to use an image. So I'm just going to put an image inside of my folder so that I can be able to work with it. Over here, I'll just open my folder. This is where I have my index.html. So I'll just drag an image into it. Okay, so here we are. You realize that I have this PNG file over here and the name is lesson 5. Good. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to bring it onto the page. And with that one, with images, we use the img tag. So if I write img, then it means that I am going to bring an image onto my page. It means I'm going to bring an image onto my page. So img, and then I can close it. It's self-closing. And so one thing that I can do over here is that I would have to tell the browser where it can find my image. So I will use a keyword called source, that is the attribute, to show the path to your image. And so over here, I'll just go into my folder and then write the name over here, lesson 5. I'll just choose it. And once you realize that the image is now showing on my website, it is now showing on my website. Just forget about the size. Once we get to CSS, we work on those things. But for now, it is showing, the image is showing on my website now. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove this send an email, and I'm going to use this image so that once somebody clicks on this image, it is going to take the person to send an email rather. And once I do it for the email, I can do it for these links and everything. Or better still, let me just say that once somebody clicks on this image, it should take the person to this part. And this is just the same thing. So once I come here, instead of using this text over here, I'll just delete the text, and then I will put this image all in between the A tags. I have the opening of the anchor tag A, and then in between my content or my element content is the image that is here. So this is the start tag of the anchor or of the link, and this is the end tag of the link, but in between them the element content is an image. So if I come here, I'll see that the image is here, and then once I come here, I'll see this send an email because that one is still here. I only remove the first one and then replace it with an image. So now we have the image over here. And what is supposed to happen is that once I click on the image, it should take me to the bottom of the page, or to where we have this is my last paragraph. So I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3. You realize it? On clicking of it, it just takes me to this is the last paragraph. I'm going to do it again so that you can see it. So let's click on it, and here we are. Or better still, you can still use it and try it for some other thing. Let's try it with the email. So I'm gonna cut it from here, put some dummy text over there, and then instead of send an email, I'm just gonna put the image thing there. So over here, let me just open my browser. You realize that we have the dummy text over here, which is going to take us to the down of the page, and we have this image over here, which is going to allow us to send email to whatever email that has been prescribed over there. And here we are. You see, it's opened my email processor, and I'm going to be able to send an email to this email address. So that is how it works with links. And I think I've also used this opportunity to show you how to bring an image onto our web page. To add a video, you have to use the HTML5 tag called video. So over here, I'm just going to open video over here, and then I'm just going to close it. I'm just going to remove the image because the image is very big. Good. I'm going to put the text over there. So send an email. And then I'll say that this one says go down. So let's see the end product. The image is now gone. We have the go down here and then send an email here. But over here, nothing of the video is showing over here. You are not seeing anything about video here. So that one also, just like with the image, we had to show an SRC, the source of the image, where the image is located. We also have to do the same for video. We have to show where the video is located. And that one we are going to use source. So we say source, and then where our video is located. So when I come down here, I just choose my video, and boom. Once I come onto my web page, you realize this. Now we have a video thing showing here. So that is how it works. That is how it works. Oh, I have to give it some controls so that we can be able to say that play, pause, and all those kind of a thing. So let's see how that one also goes. Let me just open this one to one side. And then I'll open my code on another side. The only thing that I have to do is just come here and then add an attribute known as controls. And boom. Now we should have some controls showing on our video. I hope you can see this. Let me do it again. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove the controls so that you realize that there's nothing like play showing over here. So once I remove the control, we have our video showing here, our video box here, but there's nothing like control. We cannot play the video, even though there's a video there, but we can't play it. So for us to be able to play it, I'm going to add controls to it. That is the first thing that I may do, because I have another option that I can use. But the first option that I'm going to show you is to use the controls. So I'll just come here and then add an attribute to my video element, which is known as controls. I'll put it back again, and then once we come to our video, you realize that now our video has controls: volume, show full screen, and then even reduce the speed or something like that, download it, and all those kind of things. And then we have play here. So once I click on play, I should be able to have my video playing. Sorry, let's not watch the video for now. We'll delve that later. I'm going to remove the controls from here. But let's see, how do I play the video? Let's try another keyword called autoplay. Once I put an autoplay over here, immediately our page loads. The video is supposed to play on its own. That is how it's supposed to be. But I think I should spark it with a controls. I remove the control from there. And so immediately our video opens, then it begins playing. That is how the autoplay also works. How to add audios to your page. So let's say you want to put some music on your website. How do you do it? So I'm going to give you a quick one on that. So let's just get an audio and then add it to our web files. I'm just going to change the name. You see, our video is just playing on its own. Once it gets refreshed, it's playing on its own.
Keep quiet.
So I'm gonna call it
anyone talking, I'll
audio.
hit the person.
It be 2 goals. Me, I say it be 2 goals.
Stop.
That was something that I forgot to do. I was supposed to refresh the page so that I don't really have to put the controls
If I
there.
catch anyone talking,
I don't have
I'll
to have
hit the
controls.
person.
Now I don't have controls,
Me,
but my video is playing.
Up.
So once somebody opens your website, the person cannot pause the
you
video
sit up.
because you don't have any controls.
Stand up.
So
Kneel
the
down.
video keeps playing. That is one thing
Stretch
about
out your
ads.
hands.
You see these ads, they
From
will
the
say
look
that
on
the
your-
video you are trying to watch will play after the ad finishes. So that is how it works. So with this one, I can't pause it. It will just keep playing until whatever. Thank you. That is how come I've removed the controls. But please, let me just bring the controls so that I can stop the
Sister,
video.
good morning. Why you late? Oh, my man, I'm born. Why you
That
late?
is why
My
what
man,
I'm
my
part
last
of it.
one.
Why you late?
But yeah,
Not
bad.
explain
Me, why
it.
you late?
Because it might disturb your client work. Whatever work the person came to your website to do. You see, it was disturbing. Now I have your controls to either play it or pause it. I don't want to be greeted somehow. So please, let's add the audio. So with the audio, just like with the image, we use img. The video, we use video. Now with the audio, we are only going to use audio. And let's see how it goes. So I added an audio, but there's nothing showing. What is missing? What is missing? Can somebody tell me what is missing? Okay, so it is very simple. We still have to declare a source. We have to declare a source to tell our browser that go and look over here, and then you will be able to find the audio that we want to play. And please, they all follow the same procedure. So once you are telling the browser to go and do something, you have to tell the browser where it can find the particular thing that you want it to play for you. And that is why we have to declare or tell the browser the source or where our audio is found. And so just as we did it for the image and the video, we are going to do the same for the audio. So I'm going to add a source, and then I'll say that please go into my folder and then look for audio.mp3. And then let's add the controls to the audio also. Let's say controls. You know, the controls is just to tell it to play or pause. So by now you understand it. Let's see. Here we are. So now I can play videos here. I can pause the video. I can come and play audio.
Hey, muna jaman tumaba. No is it here. Se upe me papa aye mobile money.
So that is my advert.
Se upe me papa I check wo results and now what print wo nyoma. Any
Okay. So this is where we have gotten to. I think there's another thing. There are so many things that I told you I was going to teach you, like the form. So we can bring a form, we can draw tables, and all those things just with HTML. This is the slide that I want you to know. If you want to bring a table, you just write the tag is table. So we have a table, and then we have, if you want to define a row, it's tr. If you want to define data inside of the row, it is td. So that is how it goes. We can use the t head to give a heading for that table, and then once we are using the t head, we should also have the t body, and then we can have a t footer and a whole lot of them. So please, that is how it also goes. I'm just going to create a dummy one for you to just have a feel of how the tables works. I'm gonna add it just here. I'm gonna first say table, and once I put a table, it gives us the ending. What I'm gonna do is that I want a rule. So my first row, so I'll say tr, and now if I scroll down here, it looks like I should be having some row, but no problem. Let's add some data. So I'm going to say TD. So TD is for data, and I'll say this one is number 1. So I'll just write number 1 over here, and that is a TD. You see number 1 over here. I'll just add another TD, maybe about 3 of them, and then I'll just call this one number 2, and I'll call this one number 3. So over here, you realize that all of this are on the same row. That is how it is. So rows are horizontal and columns are vertical. Okay, so if I want to write another row, I will just come and then say outside of this row, I'll just say another tr, and so it will give me another row, and then I can define what I want to do on the tr. So maybe I'll say a td, and then I want this one, the td should be number 4. But it looks like it is not looking like a table. So what I will do is that I will just add a border to it, and once I add a border, boom, you realize how things are looking now. Yeah, so that is how it works. Now this first table is divided into 3. This last one, we only have 1 data over there, and that is how it works. I can have a table head. Let me just show you how the table head works. So I'll say t head, and once I say a t head, I'll say example. Let me just say example, and you realize where it is going to be. It is on the top, and so I'll just put the rest of it inside the t body, because once we have a table head, we should have a table body, and that is where I'm going to put all of my rows and my columns. And then you realize it's also like that. So please, that is how to create a table. So let's say you want to talk about lists. How do you do it? You have some lists where it is numbered. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is a numbered list. And then we have another one called unordered list, which is bullets. So when you are using bullets, so if I want to use bullets, I'll just say unordered list, which is UL, and it is also the tag. So the tag is UL. And then once I come in here, if I want to write something under it, the UL, I will say LI. So list. Are you getting this? So list item. UL stands for unordered list. Unordered list means that bullets. And then the LI stands for list item. So it means that I want to write the first bullet. So that is why immediately I write LI, I get a bullet showing over here. So I can add the content in here to say this is let me say list 1, and then you realize that it will write, it is showing bullet here and then list 1. So the more I add, the more I get. So I'm going to add more of it, and then this is what it's going to give me. And then opposite of this, realize what I'm going to do. I'm just going to copy this whole thing, and then I'm going to paste it here. But this time around, instead of UL, I'm going to remove the U and then put O there, and then it turns to 1, 2, 3 numbered list. As we delve into it, I will show you how you can change the type from this bullet, or maybe from this 1, 2, 3 to maybe Roman numerals I. Whilst you go in, you delve into this and you learn how to do that one also. But quickly, I don't want this video to be very long. That is why I want to quickly end this. But for you, you can watch these videos as numerous times as you want, so that you can be able to understand every interpretation that I have given. That is what I really want you to do. Take your time, watch the videos one after the other, so that you can be able to comprehend everything that I have expressed in this video. Now, I can also, with the audio, we can put BG sound to say that that one is a background sound. So once somebody enters your website, the person hears the sound playing boom, 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 boom. And that is how you can welcome people to your website. It is up to you deciding on what you want to do on your website. So let's finally create a form, and then I will draw the curtains down. So let's see. Let's create a form in between of our lists. So with the form also, you need a tag called form, and then that is all. That is how we create a form. So what do you want to create with a form? The first thing that I'm going to create is a label. So when you have a name, you go to a website and it says, you go to a website and they say name, and then there's a box where you type your name. The name that is written over there is what we call label. So with the label also, I go with a tag called label. So a tag label, and then I will just write the name of whatever name I want to use, whatever I want to use as the label. So first I'm going to say first name, and then you realize that we are having, let me just put a a horizontal line over here so that you can see that there's a line in between, and then we can see exactly what we are doing. I'm going to put another horizontal line over here. Good. Now you realize that we have a label called first name. If I want to bring that particular thing that they write name in it, you have to write your types. The user types the name inside, which is we call the text box. If I want to bring a text box, the only thing that I have to do is to put a tag called input. So I'm going to write a tag called input. And then once I do that, check what happens. You realize that on this page, we are having a first name, and then next to the first name, we have a place where the user can type his or her name. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is very simple. I'm not going to waste that much time over here. So please, let's move on quickly. I'm going to write another input tag, but this one, the type, I'm not going to use test, because once I use a test, it is going to be a text box where a user would have to type his name. But now I'm not going to use a test. I'm going to say the type should be a radio. And so you check here. It is that thing that you can click on it. You see, I'm going to put another radio. You see that that is what the radio is. Yeah, sure. That is how the radio is. So that thing that you click on. I'm going to put another radio so that I can show you something. You see, we have two radios now. My other radio is not coming. So now we have two radios. Oh, but I had them click that. Sorry. It looks like once I click on it, it is not giving me the chance to unclick. Like once I select it, it's not giving me the chance to deselect. So I'm going to define another attribute called name, and then I'll say this my name is choose. I'm just this name I'm the one assigning this one, so I can choose whichever name that I want to use. So you can even use your name. It is up to you. Good. Now you realize that for both of them, I gave them the same name. That is so that we can make it toggle. You see, once I choose this one, I cannot choose the other one. Once I choose the other one, I cannot choose the other one. But once I come and change the name, once this names becomes different, I can choose both of them. So this is mostly used for male and female. So let me add a label to it so that you understand what I'm talking about. Let me just first put a label over here, and then I'll say this label is for don't worry, I'll talk about the for later. But let me just define the label here, and then say this one is male. So let me just reduce the size. You see male, and then you can choose the male here, and then let me add the female also. So I'll just bring the label. Let me just copy it and then come and paste it here, but change the content to female. And then you realize that I have male and female. So when you choose male, you cannot be a male and female at the same time. So once I choose male, I cannot choose female. So okay, yeah, let me just make the name the same so that it will become like that. Once I choose male, I cannot choose female. Once I choose female, I cannot choose male. So that is how we do it. Now the next thing that I want to show you with forms is to say that instead of the radio, now I want to make it a check box. Once I say a check box, check what happens. So this is it. I can just this thing. It says tick this person, tick this place to confirm, tick to agree. That thing is also here. So the only thing that you have to do is that it is also input, but what we have to do is to say that the type should be check box. Is it not that simple? That is coding made simple just here at Superjcybs. The next thing that I'm going to show you, what can I show you again? Let me show you this one, select. So we have another one called select, and with the select, I can just give it any name. I don't care. I will just say check what is happening. Do you see it's looking like a drop down? But let's add in some more things so that you see how it goes. What we are for us to add some more things, we are going to use options, because you have to give the person options to choose from. And so for the first option, I'm going to say let me say maybe your background, your educational background. So I will say maybe primary, and then I would bring another option and say secondary. I will bring another option and then say so that is how this one works. Tertiary, That is how this one works. And so you realize that if I click on this, I have all of them dropping down, and then I can choose which one I want. I can choose which one I want. But if I want to give it a default one, I can say something like, I would just have to mark one as default, and then I'll say choose your edu background. And it's that simple. Oh shit. I think I should have made it an option and then make it default. So let's check it out. I'll just duplicate this. Bring the name over here. I'm just gonna remove all of this, and then I will just say that this one should be the default. So you realize that choose your edu is the default. It is selected by default. And then you can choose which one you want to change. And once you select whichever one you choose, is what is going to be used. So I think it is so easy. Last thing that I want to tell you. I just keep saying last thing, but I'm still here. So let's do that one last one. Like where you have to test a message. So we say test area. And then once I say a test area, check what happens. So over here I can write a long message that I cannot write where I have to put my name. So with how much I do, thank you so much. I believe you have really enjoyed this lesson. Make sure you give us a like so that more people will get to like this video, so that more people will get to see this video, because that is the only way YouTube will make somebody or will share our video to another person. So you can also share with your friends who are interested in learning coding, because I have lesson 6 for you where we begin with coding what you saw. But let me also make this information clear that I have put in all the videos at just one place on our website, and the link is in the description below, where you have all the lessons at one place. You watch this one, you watch that one, you watch that one, you watch it at numerous times as you want. And don't forget, this was proudly brought to you by the Superjcybs Business and Services. We have business consultancy services, we have digital marketing, we help you with social media marketing. If you want to learn how to compute, we are here for you. Check out our channel on YouTube, Superjcybs. That is where you can have numerous of tutorials where I teach people for free. You can enjoy it and then also do something better with it. You can also enroll on our paid computer training courses, which you can also check it out on our website, Superjcybs/courses, and you have it all there. God bless you. See you in the next video. My name has been Kofi Supernaturals, and it's been amazing. See you. Bye bye. God bless you.